cat bed.
I just got a grand piano like 2 days ago.
Wow, congrats.
Thanks. Cheers to
Congrats
25
indeed.
years.
Good pandemic.
Cheers to 25 years.
I know, it's a good pandemic activity. Hey, you're drinking some nice bourbon there.
I do have some nice bourbon here.
And Todd, your camera's facing the wrong way. And someone's on phone.
There we go.
Who's on phone but not video?
What are we
Oh,
calling
that
this?
looks like
What are we
me.
calling this?
Am I
The
here
after
twice?
conference?
Uh-huh.
The
Hey, guys.
after conference
Hey.
commentary and chat? Is that what this is?
Wait, do I need to get my green screen down?
I was
You
expecting
You
45
have a green
minutes.
screen? I know, we were expecting a 45-minute closing session with a bunch of bomb drops of like, exciting things.
I don't want the green screen.
Yeah, I scheduled it. I scheduled it for. Yeah, I'm in the server room for real.
Yeah, because that's a thing.
You can't hear the hum that would be so amazingly loud right now, but just imagine it.
All right. It looks like you belong there, Matt.
I
Seems
sometimes feel like I live my life in a server room. I'm a Russian programmer. I come down, I sit down at this desk, I then get up, eat, sit back down, and then go to sleep. That's it.
Honey, will you call him? Come on.
That's probably like for all of us tech workers.
Hey, there's Chris Blake.
Hello.
So let's let's decompress and like welcome the viewers and say what a very interesting and great conference, unconference, whatever it was. A lot of people on this call had some really significant input to this thing, hugely. So that's why you guys were invited.
Yeah, big thanks to you all. It was a really interesting conference for me. Kind of playing behind the scenes, being part of the event, but chatting with everybody. I was really surprised at kind of how well it worked. And a lot of it was having the Slack channel and having the community really come together. So it was pretty neat.
Wait, there was
Yeah.
a Slack channel?
Todd, you that was execution right there. I mean,
Yeah, that was perfection.
You gave people a place to actually be.
Yeah,
And,
well, I woke up, I think it was a week ago, Monday or Tuesday, and just was kind of just feeling bummed that we weren't going to do this thing we've been doing for so long. And given the conditions that everybody, that we're all in, lockdown, uncertain, whatever it is, I just was going to miss it. So I just thought, well, what can we do? And I didn't want to over plan or over commit to anything. I had a lot to do anyway, but it seemed like Slack would be a reasonable way to make something happen. And so we just did it. And then I built that web page. By the way, the web page is built with FileMaker in the back end, by the way.
I gotta give Todd
saw that.
more credit than that though, Todd. I think you called me last Thursday and said, "Hey, what should we do?"
Yeah.
And then you
Yeah.
spun this up like overnight. So
Yeah.
even
Chris was one of the first people I talked to about it. I was like, what do you think of this idea? And he was like, dude, sounds awesome. So I asked a few more people and people were like, yeah, let's do it. And so.
Wait, you went to
That's
Chris
happened.
for advice?
Yeah, I know.
What?
nobody does that. I start now.
Good call. This one worked out well.
Trailblazer.
No, I really do appreciate it, Todd. I think we've talked about it in a back channel with the internal team, and I don't think the event would have been half as good without it. I think it is a natural way to communicate right now, right? My days are entirely doing this and Slacking and a little bit of email, right? And so it felt really kind of great to touch everybody through that forum just a little bit. I kind of said on the forum, it felt a little bit like walking the halls and just, hey man, how you doing? And catching up with everybody and kind of see what's on their mind. You can't quote quite as deep, but it was important. And so really thank you for that. It really made the event work, I think.
Well, thank you all for participating. And just one more thing to throw out there is, if you haven't checked this out, there is a 2D audio experience that's going on there.
Yeah.
That's pretty fun. And there's a lot more that can be done with that platform. I just didn't have time to like really get into it, but you can put like live stream video in there, and you can put in music channels, and people can stand around and have a conversation. And it's not bad. You get the audio, spatial audio thing going on. So somebody to your left on the screen comes in through your left ear, and you can, it actually works pretty well. So if you haven't had a chance to do that, I recommend checking it out. Just make sure you set your mic up or use headphones, or turn your mic, make sure echo cancellation is on. But other than that, it was great. And I spent a bunch of time in there, and it was really fun. So
I have to say, one of the benefits I thought was somebody had mentioned, they said, oh, this is great. I get to talk, and now hundreds of people hear me instead of just my neighbor. So like when you're sitting at the keynote or the closing session, you're just talking to whoever's immediately within your range, but now somebody's got a comment, they like just put it there, and then it's like you're trying to avoid these spawn off discussions that, it's cool. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, it was fun. It was definitely fun.
It was a little mind-bending to be communicating in the channel while my presentation was on screen, and I'm sure some of you kind of felt the same. But that was also really cool, right? It was just a great way to hear what people were responding to and have a little fun. And I don't know, it was a little different, but really nice.
Yeah.
So
glad we could do something.
Let's pick a topic, guys.
Yeah.
Anything big for anybody?
That was a lot. I mean,
so we're just gonna. Okay, I'm gonna start it.
Oh, there was some big stuff. Go ahead.
There was. I mean, we saw it. Actually, we could bring up the Slack channel and even see what people were talking about if we wanted to use that stuff.
Yeah, but that could take days. There was so much conversation.
So
now.
I had a revelation that I think last DevCon I didn't have that I came away with now this time. And for me, it was part of the marketing message or the communication about next. And I kept thinking, what's coming next? But I think I finally got a good understanding that next is just an enhancement or an extension of FileMaker. And I think I finally feel like the message isn't we're abandoning the old existing platform and the development environment. In fact, that is our roots. That's what we have to keep relying on because that's where the development goes. But we need to expose ourselves to more customers and an easier path of entry. And I think that's going to be more of the web side of this next gen type of thing instead of a complete replacement, which is what I thought it was. What did you guys think?
Yeah, so I heard you mention this in the last one of these you did. Was it last night, Matt, that you guys got together?
Yeah, it was yesterday.
Yeah. And I thought, great observation. I mean, I think, Srini is our product leader, and he's our vision guy, and he understands the market. He sees where the technologies are coming, and he's really, really brilliant. And so, the idea of calling Next Gen or NG the platform that we're driving towards, that using that name, I think it made sense to him because it is what's next, like you're talking about. But I agree with you. A lot of people, I think, walked away thinking that this was a supplement, a replacement for the FileMaker platform. And I had people come to me like, there is no way in hell you're going to be able to replace FileMaker inside of 3 years or something, right?
In fairness, there was an entire DevCon where we had to say next when we referred to the next FileMaker.
Yes, I remember.
Right.
So that maybe isn't part of our psyche,
Agreed. And so now that I've been invited into the marketing organization, I hope that we can be a little clearer in how we communicate that stuff. I mean, I think Srini has to have the ability to get out and communicate with the product teams, all the nice stuff that they're talking about. I do want to get to sort of our agile process and what that means for how quickly we bring value to market and what we deliver in that, because it's going to be a communications challenge. But yeah, I kind of agree with you. And it should be said that our intention is not to stop selling FileMaker in 2021 because we have this new thing, right? We want a Claris platform that has complementary products, and Connect is our automation platform for stitching together different things, and FileMaker is the data-driven app development platform. And I think Srini and Giuliano have some really interesting ideas about changing our thinking to be process-centric, not data-centric, and how we build on that to build value in our business. And a lot of their ideas comport with what Todd was saying last year when we were announcing Connect, and he was sort of putting it all together. So I think there's a good vision there. These things will need to complement each other. NG, whatever we're going to name that thing, is going to have to make sense to a FileMaker developer, and we're going to work hard to make sure that happens.
Comport. Did someone challenge you to use the word comport in a sentence today? Because that was solid. I mean, it was perfect.
I'll see if I can bring out some other ones, man. It's all good.
Hey, Matt, we're outnumbered by Chris's here. There's 3 Chris's on this call and just 2 Matts.
How did we pay?
We're trying to be confusing. I don't know, but we did.
But I don't know about y'all, but I seem to be between 2 Matts. I feel like it's between 2 ferns.
No, it's
or
kind of
something, right? I
different.
got these 2 guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know how
It's
Zoom
different for
does that.
everybody in terms of what's being shown
Yeah.
speaker wise.
We need one more person and we'll have a Brady Bunch. Got to have Alice in the middle there, you know?
Okay,
Yes,
so
I'm old.
I have a question for Todd.
Yeah.
Okay, so you started with modular FileMaker, and
Yeah.
you and I go way back. You explored WordPress a whole lot. I knew about Drupal. My magazine site runs on Drupal. The whole modular plug-in something that works, and that collaborative development on that. In the world of open source, it works really well. But I have a question. There's a strong message coming out of Claris from Srini and the other guys. It's like, we need you guys to help build and bolster the marketplace. But we're as opposed to open source, we're in closed source and everybody's working on a profit model. And you mentioned the other day, well, of course, there's going to be paid add-ons and stuff like that. How do you foresee in the marketplace this balance of the fact that a customer is going to first pay for FileMaker and then second have to additionally pay for whatever the good add-ons are if those third-party companies also want to make money?
Yeah, so I think there's good examples of this. Whether, I usually bookend it with Salesforce on one side and WordPress on the other, going from a very commercial enterprise kind of driven thing with Salesforce all the way to open source. And I think both of those markets prove that there's a potential for commercial success within those markets. I think WooCommerce, which was a standalone company that made a plugin, an e-commerce plugin for WordPress, sold to WordPress for millions of dollars. I mean, this was a major company that was bought out for a lot of money, and that they were just a plugin vendor within that market. And on the Salesforce side, there's apps that do quite well within that ecosystem as well. So I think that it's just obvious. I mean, that's just out there. That clearly works. I think what we'll see if I had to guess, what I think we'll see within this marketplace is that there will be a mix of free stuff, open source stuff, open source like stuff. Can't really be open source on a platform like this, but and then we'll see commercial stuff. And I think again, the model there is, you can see it in WordPress. You have free plugins, but we run our e-commerce. All of our website is WordPress, and we have something like, I'm not kidding, I think I have 48 plugins installed on my WordPress site. Most of the ones, all the ones that I rely on are commercial, and I happily pay them money every year to solve that problem for me. I have no problem paying them money. And I expect that's what we'll see here, is that there will be free calendars, and there will be calendars that will have more bells and whistles, will include support, will stay up to date, will do all the things that you come to expect from commercial vendors. Mm-hmm. That's what I hope will happen, and that's what I think will happen. If the marketplace is working well, I think that's what will happen.
Well, in order for that to happen with an add-on, there's going to have to be some evolution to that platform. Because right now, like, if you release an add-on, all the code's in the solution. There's kind of not really a mechanism for the update. But I agree with you. I think that's where it's going to go, because I think there's elements to the add-on that can be external. You can have the add-on connect to some other service, like it does with Seed Go Calendar, for example, and others, that will then create a model for that. And
Claris PMs and engineers are well aware of those issues, and there's lots of discussions going on about things to do to help make that work. Because clearly, we need a way to do some kind of licensing model, and right now everybody's got to invent their own, which I think is challenging. I don't necessarily think that Claris has to go all the way to offering the full e-commerce experience. Although there's a debate on that. We could go on forever. Whether it'll happen or not is well beyond my thoughts or understanding. But I do think there are some things that they could do to help make it easier for people to build economic value on top of that. Obviously updating. I think the key to WordPress, frankly, is the automatic updating. That's the thing, right? You just, when a plugin gets updated in WordPress, you just go click a button, you get the latest
It's
copy.
such an easy way to break your whole site, right? Just upgrade one plugin and everything. I love that feature. Yes,
they do a pretty good job with it. That's another reason why you want commercial vendors, though, because commercial vendors won't ship things that break your whole site, or they don't stay commercial very long. That's what happens. But but there are some things. So that's one. Another one would be some way to measure users or usage or something. I don't know. It's a bigger conversation, but that definitely something like that would be very helpful. But we're still in the early stages of this. I mean, I don't know exactly when the first plans for what this became kind of got started on, but it wasn't that long ago. I mean, we're not talking years. We're talking months ago. These plans were hatched. So things are moving pretty rapidly.
For add-ons and marketplace, or
yeah, I mean, for this specific way that
get
these
back a little
add-ons
farther
are
than that,
built and used. What's that?
I think there were add-on tables, and before that there was XML representation. And if you look at Robert's presentations over the last couple of years, it's been leading here, right? Is what we've been trying to get to.
The XML, they've been doing that for
changes to it just in the last few months, right? So I mean, things are really evolving quickly there. So
Well, one could argue potentially there'll be that much change in the next few months. I was listening to this discussion yesterday, and what I thought was really interesting was looking at removal of add-ons being a problem. And to Andy's point that we've had add-ons for a long time, I keep telling this story. I was doing a training day a couple of DevCons ago, and I talked about add-on tables in the middle of it. And in between the sessions, I walked by one of the attendees, and she pulled me aside and said, "Hey, look, I was doing that add-on thing that you said, but this thing doesn't work." And I go, "Oh, let's look at the relationship graph." And there were like 3 iterations of the add-on tables and join tables in there. And I thought, well, restart. Let's start from scratch. So while you guys did a really good job, the Mats did a great job of talking about how they can be dangerous to extract all that out in a multiple developer environment last night. I'm actually really excited about that part. Like that part to me, maybe it was just that experience that I had, but I think that's a real plus. And that is one of the things that's happened in recent months, as an example.
Yeah, to that point,
I think I heard John Sindelar saying, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You're the guest.
I was just saying that I thought I heard John Sindelar using the term code injection as opposed to, or something, right?
Just start.
Yeah, it's using the same ID, and it should hopefully connect. Yep, it reconnected. Same stream.
Woohoo! Yes, working.
All the people dropped off.
Just to summarize, guys, that's pretty much the product plan for the year, and I've got to go.
All right, thanks. It was great to see you. I can't even believe that story that you told about that time at DevCon a couple of years ago. I suspected something like that happened, but
dude, thanks Andy for telling us all of the inside details. Now we know what's happening in FileMaker.
Claris.
Wait, we were not broadcasting? Oh, good.
It's in the recording. Very nice.
Oh yeah. Yep. No, I didn't. I'm hosting the Zoom and I'm not recording the Zoom, so it's gone.
This was their fears, probably. They're like, if this dies, then people completely they just check out. So
for our event, or
for any live event. For any live event that, that you don't have control over variables.
Hey, Matt, audio's not going in.
Audio?
Uh-oh.
Yes.
Not on the stream?
Yes.
Can you guys hear me?
I can't hear you.
Interesting. On the stream? Because it shows that it is.
Well,
Alexi says that it is fine.
Oh, okay.
If Alexi says it must be true. Hi, Alexi.
All right.
It might be people's connection. According to the software says that it is, but
Alexi, why is Alexi not on this call? She should be here.
That's right.
I want lots of people in here. This is fun. So one kind of big bomb drop today. Well, it wasn't super new news, but FileMaker for Android, and it's not going to be like a port of FileMaker Go. I'm not going to ask you necessarily to comment on that. Dr.
Technical. I need technical details, or we're transpiling, right?
I felt sure that there was going to be like an acquisition of a certain Scottish company.
The answer for me is I don't know anything that you didn't hear today.
Yeah, that's what I would expect you to say, which is perfectly reasonable. but it was
Reasonably true.
very interesting. So they said in the session earlier today that it's gonna feature offline sync.
Yes, please.
Yes, please. But they did not say that FileMaker Go is going to have the same feature. So I thought that was a pretty interesting. I don't know. I wouldn't say omission, but
Well,
watching the
I
space
think that
grow.
Android is getting harder and harder to ignore. It's hard to say that you can be in all these places and IoT and the all this stuff and still require somebody to have $1,000 handset.
Yep.
I just at some point
$400.
got to get there, and it's hard to make the case that a web app, even as good as a web app could be, can really do what you need a native app to do in this space. Connecting to all the devices and everything. It's hard to ignore, and it's getting harder every year.
Especially outside of the domestic and European markets, Android matters a lot.
Good
Looking
point.
at the comments too. Everyone says they can hear everything, which is great.
Good. Yeah, I'm checking it because I see the comments off to the side here. That's why I'm always looking at the side, and I'm like, well, the software shows that it's going out the audio.
Someone posted, "Hey, everyone, please just click thumbs up on the YouTube right now." Yeah, feels good.
Okay, so we're not going to get anything out of Andy, even if he does know. Technical guesstimations on the Android thing. I'm thinking they're taking the XML output, since they have a more full description, and then they're using that to automatically build. And if you have inside information, Todd or who I know might have inside information, obviously you either don't get to answer, don't have to answer, or whatever.
If you know the answer, just say right now, I cannot confirm or deny that that's the case.
But if you're guessing with me, hey, Chris Irvine, what do you think?
Chris Moyer, what do you think?
Yeah, Chris's.
I think we've seen the future already, and it's just a matter of time.
What other big announcements like that were snuck into sessions today? Matt and I were doing a bunch of technical stuff, so I actually missed a couple sessions. Anything else like that people saw?
Well, I'm pretty psyched for Linux servers.
Oh, me too.
Yeah.
I've been working with that
really well
guy
for all our testing.
That's good. I've been waiting for other people to do the testing on this. I didn't want to spend the cycles since we were spinning the cycles on other stuff. But we don't advertise hosting. We don't offer it as a service, but we do it for all of our major clients. We host for, and we run dev servers, production servers. And we have a pretty good setup, and it's not that expensive, but it'll be cheaper with Linux, and we're looking forward to that. And probably
that's one tier down on AWS.
Exactly. One tier down.
That's half the price.
Yeah, so that's going to add up, and also to standardize. We have this product Auto, and we'll have to support all the platforms for as long as they're available. But I have to tell you, the hardest part about Auto, which is a service that gets installed on a server, the hardest part was supporting Mac and Windows, 3 versions of operating systems, and 3 versions of FileMaker. Do the math. That's a large variation of different things you have to deal with, and it was painful. So being able to narrow that focus down to a single platform is a dream for me. I hope.
Can anybody really justify running FileMaker server on a Mac? I love the Mac, but I just can't do it.
Yeah.
Chris Irvine, you and I have been around this one a lot, but
the performance to price opportunity for really small businesses, it's very attractive to them still.
Yeah.
So the argument to move into some server class hardware with on-prem Linux will be an easy sell to some people who have been dragging their feet, who don't want to go to a Windows server.
Yeah, you can just install it on your fridge or your toaster or something, which is already running Linux.
Yeah, but they're going to pay for an admin, right, Chris? Though they're gonna pay for somebody to manage that, because whenever you put in your server, Linux will run. It'll go forever. You can run. I've run Linux boxes for over 365 days.
Yeah, I've also had them completely die
enough will
in a
go
way that
down.
you can't recover. So
Well, that's true for.
But you have to be willing to get in there. And as Todd likes to call it, messaging with the OS, people don't like the terminal.
I suspect that,
Mhm.
and I don't know that this is coming from Claris, but I suspect that the way that the whole Linux ecosystem works, that it will not be too difficult for somebody to come up with a container-based version here, some
Oh,
kind
okay.
of Docker thing or whatever. And we're just going to run it. You'll run it on your Mac, you'll run it on your Windows, you'll run it wherever you want, but you really won't have to be tinkering with this much. I mean, the reason Linux is so great is because you can run it in the cloud without having to tinker with it. So I hope we get there at some point, that it's really not, I don't want to be, I think on-prem is really important. I actually believe that it's a big differentiator that Claris needs to keep. And then there are certain scenarios where you just have to have it. So I want to see an on-prem version, but I really would like there to be one OS for that to be the thing that's running it. So if you have to put it in a container and run it in some kind of, I mean, on the Mac we use VMware Fusion. It works great for this kind of stuff. It's not really a problem. If you have Docker, you can install Docker. And now Windows ships with the Linux subsystem. So I just can't believe it's going to be that challenging for folks to get this solved in a way that's very, very reasonable to do.
Well, we should clarify some of the technicalities there of for those in the FileMaker community that don't necessarily know the difference between a container or a fully virtualized server, because you can't actually containerize FileMaker for Linux on a Mac or Windows currently, and that's because they're hinging on CentOS 7, which requires SE Linux, and containerization is a virtualization of the kernel, not a whole of a hardware system. And so you can do it within a hardware system, but you won't be able to use a container on Mac or Windows, only on Linux.
Well, somebody will figure out a good way to do it. I mean, that's the rest of the world has done it. So
yeah,
I really hope to see it.
I did a workshop at our user group on Linux deployment. And then there was a discussion, I think amongst Wim and Nick Lightbody, about how hard do you have to learn a whole new skill set? And it's really not that much you have to learn to deploy on Linux. And that's what I started in, was Unix-based systems like AIX back in 1990. So, I might be talking that way because I did that before Windows and am newer to Mac. But the discussion was Nick Lightbody was trying to put a, kind of a desktop on top to help people out who are used to a desktop environment to deploy Linux. But I pulled up my slide deck, and it's really like a handful of commands you can learn. And anyone who's played with a Pi, you got to learn some of those commands. Anyone who's, most young people are running on Linux, right? And so I don't think anybody, especially you guys, or most any FileMaker developer, has learned much harder tasks than adminning a FileMaker server on Linux. And that may just be my opinion where I'm coming from, but it's not hard to deploy. It's not hard to admin. It's not hard to keep running, It's just something different, right? And different is always harder. And you got to learn things for containerization too, right?
Yeah, I don't know. The OS just seems like it's a non-issue for running FileMaker server pretty much, except if it's Mac OS. There's problems on running, because like on Mac OS, you turn on WebDirect and all of a sudden the browser breaks because it doesn't really just get along as well as it should. I don't know.
I think one of the mistakes that people make, it's not a mistake, but one of the things that we settled on when we started doing everything in the cloud is we never fix a server. If a server is ever not working, we just throw it out.
Spin up a new one.
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean,
you're talking about
from scratch. We've got 15 minutes between
and
the server, for a new server.
Oh,
that's actually not even automated. That's
you got to work on that, man. You should get that to 2.
Right?
Yeah, you probably use AMIs, right?
We can, but I mean, that's my point, is that it doesn't take long to do this. It's way faster to start a new server than it is to figure out what's wrong with any existing server.
And also upgrading to versions, right? So if a customer wants to go, if they have an on-prem server and you have a project to upgrade from server 18 to 19, that's major, because something's going to break. And so you have to plan for when the server doesn't work on 19 to be able to revert back to the old version. And if it's cloud hosted and you can just spin up a new server and install 19 and configure it and get it to work, it takes, like you said, 15 minutes.
That's right.
Then you just oh, everything's working. We'll move the databases and point to a different IP. Done.
Yep.
We map the drives.
So I feel like we should clarify for the people who are watching, because a lot of these terms are completely new to us in the world of FileMaker if you haven't worked with them. So the concept of a server being a standalone object no longer exists. Now, if you have just this massive amount of server hardware, it acts as just this giant machine that you can use as much of the resources as you want. So when Todd's talking about containers, these containers are just simply whole little operating systems that you spin up that don't have to emulate all of the different hardware. They just emulate the kernel and then the software. So they create a little thing. I forget what Docker calls them, but it's a file that describes the operating system and what it needs. And one of those things is FileMaker Server. Your data is connected separately. It's usually on a different like virtual drive. And you spin up this FileMaker Server, and then it just uses the data. But you can do that multiple hundreds of times. In fact, new games, they work on systems where they just spin up multiple little virtual operating systems. And this is all coordinated with something you've probably heard of called Kubernetes. And Kubernetes, released by Google, is what would allow FileMaker to basically have massive scale.
Yeah.
So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. We'll get there. We'll get there.
So Andy, question.
Sure.
I'm really curious, if the move that we're all sort of talking about from on-prem servers to cloud servers to FileMaker Cloud, how far along is the whole of FileMaker on that?
What exactly do you mean by that? You're saying
I guess one question I have is
from one to the other.
What percentage of FileMaker servers do you think are running on-prem at this point?
Oh, golly, I don't know that data.
Because it's like 5% of ours at AppWorks.
I'm sorry?
I think probably 5% of our customers are on-prem.
Yeah.
Under 10 for sure.
It's something we have a few customers who are on-prem, and we basically have to sit them down and tell them, look, you're going to be spending a lot more money. It's a lot more money to support. You're going to need more tech support. You're going to need more, it's going to cost you for the hardware. You're going to need more tech support. It's going to be much harder for you to be nimble. It's just, unless you have a speed issue, which some especially older FileMaker solutions might have, unless you have a speed issue, you better have the resources to maintain that thing on site, because it's just going to cost you more money. Some companies have it and they can do that, and that's fine. But if you're a small business,
for small businesses, but large organizations that actually have an IT infrastructure and they actually do virtual servers for all their other stuff, you're not going to be able to convince them to move to your cloud hosting,
and you don't need to.
Exactly. So like our public health client,
I just was 100% agree. I mean, if you look at what Srini has said last year and this year, the focus on cloud for us is paramount, right? We have to be there. It's the accelerant for digital transformation. It's commoditization of IT, and it's we do all the busy work for you. It's low code for administration, right? And so we absolutely have a focus on it. We do, though, understand that our on-prem capabilities are a competitive differentiator, right? We have customers that require it. They have to have it. And whether it's for policy security reasons, or I don't know, Eric Astor, who's got his record pressing machines running and he has to keep them running whether or not his internet's down, right? So on-prem to us is very important. So we're not getting away from it in favor of cloud. I think one of the senses I got after DevCon last year was people thought cloud first meant, we're done with on-prem, we're going to the cloud. And so we've modified the language to be cloud smart, because we know that being on cloud, on device, on-prem, wherever you are, is a really critical part of our equation, right, for our customers. So I'm sorry I don't have the data for you, Matt, but I would echo back our emphasis on cloud as it is critical to the company's direction.
And one thing I would add about the cloud versus on-prem is that a lot of SaaS products have on-prem versions. I mean, GitHub, for example, has an on-prem version. I mean, a lot of companies that started purely in the cloud. When they get to some customers, they can't reach them, so they make an on-prem version. So I think it's great that we have that option.
Yeah, I do too.
I guess the thing for me is that this is really there's a very gray line between on-prem and then all the stages up to platform as a service. So, when there's an on-prem version of the product that you can install, the companies are going to deploy that sometimes in the traditional sense of on-premise, but a lot of times that just means in their private cloud or in co-located servers, things that are, literally on the other side of the aisle, maybe from where the FileMaker cloud server is. But having that deployment freedom to sort of choose where it makes sense for your server to be that's going to perform best for your company is a key ingredient.
It's a good point.
We got dead air.
I see.
I'm gonna throw a question out there.
I see a comment.
Well,
I'm just looking at
really discussion on the channel that I'm looking at too about like what's the definition of cloud? Does that mean FileMaker cloud?
Yeah, pull the comments for sure.
Yeah, and I'd say no. That's not what I mean when I say it. I mean FileMaker cloud.
I've experienced that's one of the areas of confusion for customers when we're talking to them is we're always having the conversation. There's a FileMaker cloud. In your particular case, you might need this, that, and the other thing. So we're talking about, an AWS instance where you still need your licenses and such. So I think it's worth clarifying, really.
Ethan, you've just been called out as, Ethan just called Chris Ippolite Hollywood Chris. Looking for the best lighting. It's really funny.
I was going to mention that. And I was saying, Chris, are you comfortable now?
I'm just trying to be, well, here, truth be told, we're having a power outage on our block right now. So I'm running off of my cell phone. And so this is the only place I can get any light at all where it's not like 95 degrees. But
if you could find a place where there's no airplanes flying overhead, that would be great.
Well, that's the other part. I keep muting because there are, in fact, airplanes flying over. So I apologize. I'll keep muting.
And I'm like looking like hell because
I don't know if you caught it.
Failed in an office, like 90 in here right now.
I don't know if y'all caught it if you're watching yesterday and this morning, but Ronnie Rios in New York got hit by the hurricane tropical storm, and as a result, he lost all power. So he did the session last night, literally on batteries with his little MiFi device, and he had two flashlights pointed at his face to try and light himself. But he's like, I will make this event. I'm going to make it happen. So kudos to Ronnie for MacGyvering into the event. That was pretty awesome.
There was a lot of comments in the Slack about how he needed a better internet connection. Yeah. So I don't think anyone
realized what it was on.
Yeah.
Everyone wanted to buy him a new camera. I'm like, he's struggling. Let's give the guy, throw him a bone. He's trying.
So what did we miss? What was this conference lacking that it should have had more of?
Donuts.
Let's be critical.
Breakfast, chicken, right?
Chicken. I was just about to try to use that joke. That was a really funny one from a bunch of DevCons ago. Booze, apparently.
Well, sessions.
Yeah.
Am I missing? I don't even know what the sessions are. Maybe it's worth mentioning in case other people are in the same position as me. Where do I find out what the sessions are and when and how can we access those?
Oh yeah, the add-on content.
At risk of being critical.
Wait,
was there any content? Was there a session? Was there a session that didn't have a FileMaker Claris employee in it?
There was.
That's good. I didn't.
Which one?
Bob Bowers.
Okay.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So, and when he proposed it, and for the most part, some of the other sessions we were just moderators, right? I don't think we were trying to. But we really wanted to evoke some sort of thought leadership and get some different topics out there. And based on the feedback I saw at AutoEnter, I think I was pleasantly surprised. I was really nervous. You never know with the panels. Are you picking the right topics? Are they going to land? Is they going to be relevant to people?
Yeah.
The attendance was really strong throughout. People really didn't drop off. In the commentary at the end, there was criticism, and that's great. Getting some feedback. And he said, "What? That's great. We're listening." But by and large, at the end of the events, people seem pretty pleased or thankful for them. And So if our goal was to try and just get some people who kind of get it to talk out loud with each other like we're doing right now, that seemed to have worked. The technical sessions are coming on the 7th. Is that Friday? 2 days from now?
Yeah.
So they're coming. They'll be available for download on demand or free access through the Academy.
One thing I would say as far as the content, having done a couple of these now, and also a webinar about a month or so. Once you're virtual, there's very little value, I think, in doing the demos live. The conversation's great to do live, and the Q&A stuff's really important. But it's actually really hard to do. I had to do a 30-minute demo, and I have no feedback. I have to keep an eye on my clock. I can't. I don't see any. I don't know how I'm doing. I have no idea what's going on. I don't know if I've missed a word. Like, I really rely on the contact with the audience to figure out if I've missed something or I'm going off the rails. So without that, I just don't see the benefit of that over, say, pre-recording the 30 minutes, making sure I get the content exactly the way that I, make the points exactly the way that I want to make them, and then have a nice, robust live Q&A.
He's recorded right now, actually. This is all a recording.
It is all recording. Yeah.
It's all
This stuff is
recorded.
great. The back and forth is great.
There's no reason to do him live.
I love the thrill of the live demo, whether I'm giving it or I'm laughing at someone else trying to give it. So
yeah, it's great when it's in person, and I'm a big fan. I've done several sessions where I pretty much only coded, and I think it's great when you're there.
Yeah.
I think without the two-way feedback, it's a super big challenge for everybody involved, and I don't think it's worth it if you can record it and get it done with the content you want, and then still have an opportunity for discussion. I think you get the most win.
Yeah,
if you're live, it's a live event.
You can
Coding's
do
great.
a hybrid too. You could record it and then just talk over it.
Yeah.
Live. Yeah.
I honestly, that's what I've been doing for like the last 5 years at DevCon. I hope I've fooled everyone, I guess, but mainly because of timing, and everything works always, every time. I don't edit out things like things taking longer, so I make it look fat. I don't do any of that. I try to have integrity with it. But the fact that I can actually engage and talk over things and have zero dead air and just fit more content in and honestly get some sleep the night before, so I know my demos are going to work. I think that makes for a better audience experience. That's what I'm banking on, at the very least.
Yeah, we talked about this deeply, by the way, in terms of preparing for what do we do with a virtual engage. How are we going to pull this off, right? We don't have the budget, right? Because you guys didn't have to pay for it this time, right? We didn't have people giving us money to build this on-site event. And of course, a lot of that goes to facilities and food, but it enables us to do a little bit more with the production. So we had to figure out what can we provide within a reasonable budget and make it exciting. We talked with folks at Apple before WWDC, back in the spring. What are you going to do? And they're like, we're figuring it out too. And of course, they're Apple. They did a ridiculously good job. But I got to talk to somebody in one of the production teams about how deeply they considered live versus not. And there are reasons you do live, and you don't do live if you don't have to. But when you're doing something like a new product reveal or something, and you want someone to have the energy and the nervousness and the excitement and have that moment captured, live makes a lot of sense, right? If you want to have the dynamic dialogue like we're having now, you could pre-record this, but being able to chat, that you kind of need to do this live.
Yep, you do.
But for the technical content, we're like, we can do the technical content and make that downloadable, right? So yeah, it's an interesting decision. I saw some debate happening on the forum about it. People that didn't like live or wanted live. We made a best call. We hope it worked.
Well, and the risk of having even when you're in person, to have a demo go bad and lose
on stage at DevCon. I mean, it's like it happens every time. Right?
Yeah, I remember I was trying to demonstrate sync with a hotel Wi-Fi, and it was just not.
That's what actually had me start doing it, was presenting on web technologies all the time, and I just didn't want to deal with hotel Wi-Fi at all. Sorry, Hayden.
Nope, I was done.
But as far as not having to show up, can I introduce you guys to who I think might be a speaker at future DevCons? Let me see if this comes over well. Here we go.
Hello, I am AI Chris. I mean, Chrissy Polite. I am actually a machine learning model. Hello, I am AI Chris.
Oh, wait.
I mean, Chrissy Polite. I am actually
going.
No, I accidentally hit a loop. So that I'm working on that part of it, and then maybe I don't actually have to show up. I record the demos, play the machine learning voice model, and then done deal.
Yeah.
I
Chrissy
think
is so
what
polite.
I think everybody might have
Chrissy
missed.
polite.
Everybody might have missed what you just were showing in the fact that that wasn't you speaking.
Yeah.
That was
No.
the computer that used samples of your voice to
Yeah.
create completely new sentences.
Yeah.
That's correct. As a matter of fact,
it's
It
crazy.
was this. It was Descript, which is, I should probably hide Slack. This is this like podcasting application that I got obsessed with because they just came out with this thing called Overdub.
Yeah.
So like, right. So now it's actually writing, it's learning, right? It's creating, it's generating the overdub. And so now once it's done, and it's constantly learning. But what I had to do this was actually read, here we go, let's try it out.
I mean, dude, make action.
Right. So, so I can't necessarily say that I'm even talking to you right now. What you do there is you train the model like any other machine learning model. You have to read 3 chapters of The Wizard of Oz in different voice inflections, and then overnight it learns this model. And now I did it at the end of the day, and my voice was kind of raspy, so now it talks like raspy Chris, like you guys are hearing live, or are you? I don't know. And so I do like morning Chris with coffee. So I'm trying to get like 100 out. And now I know Heidi, you have some interesting concepts on small data samples.
Yeah.
To your point that we've discussed before, they only need 5 minutes to create the model, but for whatever reason, I want to try to give it like 10 hours. I don't know why.
Right. Why not? Yeah.
Sure.
I am
10 hours
forever
is
going to
better.
call you
Chris,
Chrissy.
polite.
I'm
It
going to
could be a
forever
more
call you
robust.
Chrissy polite.
Hi, Chris. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, how come this AI model can get my name right, but
Chrissy polite.
YouTube closed captioning can't? I am not polite. I just want to point that out.
Yeah, we know.
Yeah, I'm telling people on the channel that if you haven't gone and looked at how powerful the technology has gotten on deepfakes, go search deepfakes on Google.
Yeah, it's pretty scary.
It's like I just saw one the other day.
Be careful doing that at work.
Yeah,
True.
Doing it at work, yeah.
I just subscribed. I'm subscribed to a channel called Deepfakes on Reddit, and so everybody who creates this content posts it. And I was a fan of Star Trek: The Next Generation. Engage, by the way.
Yeah.
And they mapped Mark Zuckerberg's face onto Data when Data was doing a poem within one of the holodecks, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!"
They didn't really need to map his. I mean, it's the same guy.
It's close. It's close. It is close. But I'm thinking, oh my gosh, my children are growing up in a world where they literally will have to choose, or they need to be taught to choose, did somebody fake this and make it, or is it real? Because it's going to get so hard to differentiate that stuff. It's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Well, especially considering like now I trained a model, right? But think about, we just entered a world where everyone in the world is on Zoom, and there's probably dozens of hours of video of all of us and dozens of hours of audio. There is data out there to create the ultimate deep fake model right now, just based on what COVID has driven us to do. Now no one's going to.
Right now we're feeding it.
Yeah,
Hey, we got to do 360.
Oh no, Andy, I'm
Exactly.
working on your model.
Everyone go like this.
I know
No
you're working on my
joke.
model. I can't wait.
I read a sci-fi book where they basically recreated, a girl had died and they recreated her in virtual reality from everything that was taken of her life that had been captured. It was a sci-fi book.
So that means that if that's true, I'm
Well,
gonna have to
Facebook's
start
already
wearing,
doing that, at least at an account level.
I'm gonna have to start wearing really interesting costumes, so my virtual version of me will be very interesting.
Identity
wearing
theft
disguises.
takes on a whole new realm then.
Can I use this?
We all had to learn that Photoshop, changed everything, like when we were youngish.
Yeah.
And that you can't trust a picture as being real. But that, that wasn't always possible.
Now you
obviously
can't trust audio or video.
Right. You can't trust. Yeah.
If I may use this moment to give some attribution, I've been talking today in particular online and just in general about Monkey Learn, which is this amazing resource for using models that are already created. And that was for my demo this morning. And then I've just started working on my own models. And I just want to say in this forum, Heidi was the one who turned me on to that. I had been doing machine learning models the hard way for a long time, like the really hard way. And Heidi turned me onto it. And if you guys haven't seen her session from Heidi was at
Last year, yeah.
back. Yeah. So last year, pioneering this stuff, go watch them. That was what I used. It's a really super easy tool. And of course, you know, we'll soon see a monkey learn Claris Connect model. That's how that demonstration from this morning happened. But I just wanted to get as many years as possible and say thank you, Heidi, for that. It's a sad state of affairs, but you've changed my life over the last few months.
I've changed your life?
Yeah, it's very sad for me. Well, maybe that was me that said that.
Wow.
But if you guys want to nerd out,
Major improvement.
Yeah, so far so good.
But
He's more polite now.
Thank you so much for Chrissy Polite. I really appreciate
Chris is polite.
Yeah. But I would really encourage people to go check it out. Just like Heidi told me, you guys should check it out. It's a lot of fun. And like machine learning is real. It's here. It's pretty much all I do nowadays. So please go check it out. And I might add, I created a machine learning model like 10 years ago to cheat on fantasy football.
Not polite.
Obviously very important.
No, you're only just now using the word cheat. Before it was actually you were competing.
You know, I still think it's competing, but everyone in the league, with some who are on the chat right now, think it's cheating. I think someone called it performance enhancing code, and I embrace that. But I was doing it the hard way. I'm proud to say it was actually an integration of machine learning and FileMaker. And that model that I created with FileMaker and a machine learning model just got voted like 3 weeks ago a top 10 most accurate football predictor model in like the whole world. So I mean, I know nobody cares about sports in the FileMaker world, but show me another model based on FileMaker that is world renowned for its accuracy. And I don't know, I think I'm pretty proud of FileMaker because of that. And you know, here we are talking about machine learning.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Go FileMaker.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I think all of us that have like just swam in this pool of FileMaker for 20 years, we're just so desperate for people to understand, hey, this is so cool how you can do things so quickly. And I think once scale meets that that mental model that we have, adoption should go up, hopefully.
I think so. You know, I mean, I think that's where we're trying to get the platform, right? While we talk about modernizing, right? The word modern, strangely enough, seems to be coming back across the industry. But I think this is what Cerny's trying to get us to, right? Keep us in a relevant place. We don't have to do everything in the FileMaker platform. We build, sort of complementary technologies like Connect. We work on NG. I think we're in for some exciting years. We're going to be learning some new stuff. Heidi's going to teach us how to do it. It's going to be awesome.
Says the guy with a Mac 128 over his shoulder.
That is an original Mac Plus, and
Mac Plus,
it
nice.
does boot. It doesn't have FileMaker on it, unfortunately. It's got Microsoft Word, but dude, it takes like 10 minutes to boot, and it takes like 5 minutes to launch Word. It's crazy. I should have had it running this week.
Yeah,
but
that would have been cool.
I got to find the power cord. I got more comments about that thing this week than anything else that we announced. It's
actually a crank, Andy, not a power cord. There's a crank.
That's a standard power cord, isn't it?
It's interesting having part of your house in front of everybody. They pick apart what's on your wall and stuff.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. That's my wife's credenza over there. That's the front street over there somewhere. Yeah.
I know, Todd. I want to know.
We don't have any animals in here right now to walk through.
Todd, can you read the things behind you?
The one right over my head is my first degree black belt certificate.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
But can you read it?
It basically says first degree black belt.
That's actually not what it says.
I'm
just kidding.
I can't read it, so I don't read Japanese.
Todd,
Sorry.
I've got a few books we can read together, Todd.
Yeah, I
got a few. I can read these.
Yeah. Good for you. Now I can't read Japanese. I know some Japanese. I know I have two directions that I get Japanese language. One is from Aikido, and the other is from Zen. But that's really it. If it's not in one of those two things, I really have no idea. Can't read it. Can't say
where
it.
I get it for playing Go.
There you
Nice.
go. Yeah.
Which I used to do before AlphaGo beat the game or beat the best human in the world, and now I went into a fit of depression and I stopped playing. I kind of like to get back to it. But the other thing you missed on my top shelf is that right there. which is a very
We're
famous
clear.
award that was given.
We saw that.
It was given to Chris Hippolyte some years ago, and I stole it from him. So
Oh.
I keep it here. It's a trophy. It's a prize. You'll never
hold
have
on.
it back.
I'll be back.
Hey, anyone who
Are we
hasn't
just gonna go
seen
get some stuff?
if you haven't
Okay.
seen that AlphaGo documentary, I'm sure Andy has. Excellent
Yeah.
documentary. Very good.
Gotta look
Yeah,
at that.
the excuse me, the magic move right on the fifth line that was made in move 36 or whatever. I forget
It was
which
move
game.
37 in game 2 or 4, I can't remember, where everybody thought it was the dumbest move. And this is a good life lesson. The dumbest 2,000 years of Go wisdom said this was a stupid, horrible move. And the machine had learned that this is the move that would let them win the game or help them win the game.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
just one move?
Yeah. Because the move was a move no human would ever have selected.
Yeah,
It made no sense.
Yeah, like a total idiot would make this move. And but it's a really Chris Hippolyte. You should watch that too.
Oh no,
I'm
I
gonna
missed
watch
that.
it.
I love
Sorry.
docs.
In our world, that was in 1993 when FileMaker went cross-platform. It's like made no sense at all. Come run.
Oh.
I'm just-
What was
Hey,
that
Fun
one,
award.
Chris?
Bring
What's
thing
that
up,
award?
Chris.
Oh, you got Andy
FileMaker.
Lacates?
that's a
Oh, that's
handsome
really awesome. The guys traded
I'm holding
awards.
his hostage until I get that one back.
Yeah, I think John Sindelar has one or two of mine from the years because he always packed a huge suitcase when he went to
For
bed.
San Diego. When was the last time we were in San Diego? Was it 2013 or?
It wasn't that long ago. We were there
back?
like a couple of years in a row.
Yeah.
That was with the big bouncy balls, right? Put the people in the balls and rolling them
yeah,
or whatever
yeah.
on the
we did that,
lawn.
yeah.
Those
Oh,
were so
right.
great.
And they had
We
ice
did the
cream
I think I
Hilton. We did
remember
on the
the-
lawn.
We
That was
did
cool.
the Hilton down there.
There was
Yeah,
bad Wi-Fi.
I think I remember Jesse Barnum from 360 Works going
Yeah.
topsy-turvy in that thing.
Jesse and
It was
Sam.
nuts.
Uh-huh.
They're going nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's good for
It's
me.
great.
It's just a train ride away, which I love. Just get on the train right down to San Diego.
It's only 2 in
Right
and
on.
out down the freeway.
Yeah. There you
From
go.
here.
Psyched.
I think I have a picture of that thing. I wonder if I can find it.
Well, what else was new? What else was interesting?
Well,
I'm
I
tired,
wanted to
man.
talk about one thing
Yeah.
because I can't remember, Matt, if you brought this up yesterday or not, but there were some people who were kind of digging what Peter Nelson had to say in the keynote, right? Because he was pretty plain spoken, right? You know, we've got some things we have to do with cloud. Here's what it's really about. It's not a buzzword. And he really beat around the bush. But part of the other thing that he's driving, that Srini's driving, the whole company's driving, Brad's driving, is that our company moved to an agile methodology across the company. It's not just about product. And I know that you and a lot of the folks that are watching get it and do agile, right? We've sort of implemented that at a product level, many of us for years. But I think it's surfacing in interesting ways that are disconcerting to people, right? We talked about the notion of naming NG, right, Matt? And people being like, what is this thing doing? It's replacing FileMaker. And the answer is no, it's not, right? It's part of our overall platform strategy, and it'll be a complement. But, you know, then there's been concerns about how we're communicating different releases. We've come out with add-ons. We're talking about our add-ons. Where are our add-ons, right? The ones that are built into the product aren't really here yet. The ability to create one as a preview, you know, software. And what's happening is we're releasing in an agile fashion, right? We're getting MVP builds out. We're getting feedback. We're going to make them better. You know, I think there was a lot of feedback, Todd, about, you know, the add-ons and how we demoed them, and you know, the configurator, right, that you're putting into the add-ons right now, which is awesome. But then you hear Robert talking about we need to make that better and easier over time, right? And so we're in it, right? We're in the iteration process. We're putting these features out there. We're looking for feedback. We're working really closely with developers, you know, that we brought you guys essentially, I want to say in-house, but we work so closely with you to develop the feature in the first place. It was kind of part of that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we're entering a realm where, and this is going to be a big challenge for me personally, working with the marketing team, is how do we communicate this stuff, particularly to a customer base that's used to a very high level of quality at delivery time, right? We know exactly what it is, exactly what it's for, it's finished, right? And we have strong opinions about it. And now we're moving to North Stars, right? And we have a direction we're going, and we're going to be incrementally delivering on a path to get through that journey. But it's not there yet, right? And so, and in some cases, we're talking about capabilities of the feature that don't exist yet. They're coming. And so it's going to be an interesting ride. And I guess I just wanted to just kind of surface this and get some feedback. And, I think we're going to have to learn how to work together and communicate this stuff. Like right now, Todd is the source for documentation on the add-on.
Yeah.
Text.
I found some pictures.
And we don't have it.
Yeah.
But we will, right? So anyway, I just thought it was important to surface it as sort of an idea to get out there and get people to start thinking about a little bit as we reminisce about.
We've gotten some feedback on that. I think some people who are like you say are used to a certain way of doing things. We've gotten a few comments which were, why do you guys have the documentation? And I certainly, it's a reasonable question to ask, and we try to talk about why that is. And I think there's this was really this was the first cycle where Claris PMs and engineers really embraced this rapid iteration methodology that just was, things were just moving at a really, really rapid clip. So there's a little bit of a transition period, I think, happening here, probably on the inside. And I think, things like documentation coming out from third parties, even at a preview stage, probably will get ironed out as things go along. But one of the things that I really loved about what happened is, in years past, none of this would have happened because we would have spent 6 months figuring out what exactly is the best way to do this and who's going to do the documentation and get all this. And it just would have gone on and on and on and on and on and on and on before we did one thing, which is, does this actually make sense within the product? Can we actually build something useful with this feature set? And I prefer this method. I think that's sort of obvious that I would, but it provides feedback at an earlier time before things get baked in, before the final documentation gets written. But like you said, this is an early stage. I would expect that over time, Claris just adopted this. This was only officially agile within the last, I don't know how long, but it's not that long. So, some of the stuff is getting figured out. And I imagine that there's some of these things that, maybe seem like hiccups or whatever will get ironed out. But really, to me, it's much more important that progress get made and things get tried as soon as possible within the market. Like ETS, first of all, the way it used to be run is ETS was basically the features were baked. We're just trying to figure out bugs, whatever. In ETS as a feedback mechanism, it's still not perfect because the only time that people actually get skin in the game is when they're trying to ship stuff. And the only time they're going to get shipped stuff, they're going to try to ship stuff is when it's in preview, it's actually in the product and available to try out and to use.
And so it doesn't come with that warning, don't try this.
Otherwise you don't get enough skin in the game. So for me, it's important, and I'm super excited to see it. And I think things will smooth out as we adopt this new method of moving forward.
Yeah, startup restoration log.
I think we'll do more. Example, right? I'm sorry, say again, Matt.
Startup restoration log, I think, is a good example of what you were just saying, Todd. It didn't get tested in production.
Yeah.
And it didn't work.
Yeah.
And it caused all kinds of problems. And so now it's turned off by default in 19.
Yeah.
And I really, really, really wanted it to work and still want it to work.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. So.
Yeah. And if it had come out in quote unquote preview, the expectation would have been to try it out and to give feedback. It might have been fixed earlier on, or at least people would understand what the expectation is. And other companies use beta or whatever. It doesn't matter what the terminology is. Preview is fine. The idea is that this is something we hope that you try, and we want feedback.
I guess what I'm asking,
we can make this better.
Has it actually been fixed? Is it still corrupting data? Does anyone know?
I don't actually know. It's not an area I've been paying close attention to.
It should be for all of us.
Unfortunately, likewise. I apologize. I don't want to say an untruth because I haven't been close to it recently.
Well, I wasn't.
But another example. Oh, good. I can't know everything.
I was asking Chris Hippolyte. He's clearly the one who should know the answer.
Just a thought, though. Doesn't a lot of the anxiety of the new Agile, sort of the transition, come from the fact that we haven't lived through the normal cycle yet?
Yeah.
Like actually right now, we actually haven't seen anything get released in the Agile cycle. I mean, internally, Claris is doing it. I think that a lot of whatever anxiety there is, or confusion, or just sort of, getting used to it, it'll go away, well, for sure by next spring. But, we'll see add-ons, we see a couple things, and people are going to get it. right? So
Yeah, that's a good point, Chris. People are used to waiting.
You get more certainty as you get closer, or you get farther down the journey, right? And so yes, like we know with the add-ons that Robert has some principles that he's driving towards to enable people to install them and manage them, and not require Todd to build a configurator screen or whatever it is. But he doesn't know exactly how that's going to work yet, right? So we're going to get it out there. We're going to see what works, what's being used, what kind of stuff that need to go into the configurator screen, and from that, take our notes and get better. So we're kind of on the journey with that one. We demonstrated the thing that was called quick app authoring, I think yesterday, which is really cool, right? And it's really compelling, this notion that you can drag and drop stuff into a window, and it probably makes the most sense to have that feature out on a host somewhere, right? It's zero configuration authoring. That's awesome. I don't need to download bits, and I can build something. But the fastest value to market for us is going to be to put that in Pro and get it in people's hands to start playing with it. And I saw a lot of expectations in the chat today, like, oh, awesome. How am I going to do scripting in that window? The answer is you're not at first release, right? And we'll see. You're going to get an MBL. You'll get to start playing with it, and we're going to see what value can we build in seconds, dragging these pieces together, and build a quick app, that we can, host and share with others. And is that going to be valuable? It probably will, right? And then we'll learn what's missing, right? Is it going to replace FileMaker Pro as an authoring environment? Hell no.
Well, as long as it makes it possible for me to use Matt Petrowski's themes for all of my stuff.
Specifically
fine.
one theme.
I don't ever want to design a theme ever again, frankly.
Oh, here's an interesting tech tip that I just thought about. The XML that they're now exposing as a full model of the whole database, the theme is in there.
Yes.
So since XML is parsable, you will be able to export the XML of your FileMaker database, take just the theme, and then do replacements on that theme. So you want all blues to become red.
Get it done, like right now. Go.
You can
log off.
I'm not a designer. I don't want to decide font sizes and colors.
Okay.
Just do it.
So with regards to this whole thing, I just want to put out there, like from my perspective, and full disclosure, I have been part of Chris's team, which on the video, Chris, you're down, you're over here, right there, Chris.
Look up that way.
So I helped Chris, and I had a minor amount of insight, but I don't have full insight of FileMaker. So my mindset is coming from a developer here and seeing what has been talked about for the last year versus what we've received. And I just wanted to throw out some possible ideas. So what we got was a lot of future this, future that, big things are coming, and big things take a lot of time. So those big things where we're going to have the XML model. We're also going to integrate JavaScript. So you have thousands of FileMaker developers that they love FileMaker, but they're like, JavaScript? Why do I need to know JavaScript? So JavaScript's new. Mm-hmm. This XML technology is like, oh, okay, but how does that help me? I can't use it right now. For me as a developer, the balance would be how many quality of life improvements can you give, the low-hanging fruit, to your existing environment, as well as working on your big vision things. And those big vision things have sort of limited the total number of little things that developers get. They're like, oh my gosh, that helps me out. So like take, for example, I think yesterday I talked about, well, I don't know when I'm going to be able to, within a calculation dialog box, change it from 11-point monotype font to 16 points, something I can see.
Yeah.
To me, that's a quality of life improvement that even if it was implemented in the form of, well, we don't have the time to create a UI for this, we know that that can be in the preferences or the settings file. Some other person out there will make a modified preference file and say, here, just use this one to start with. It's got a larger, font within the editor. Those quality of life enhancements go a little bit further because they're immediately valuable, as opposed to the bigger picture ones that are like, okay, we've got add-ons, they're gonna be cool, but I can't use them right now. So and that's what I'm looking for as a balance.
Is your thesis that we've had an absence of those, the morphine drip of FileMaker functionality, if you will? Perhaps maybe that has contributed to potential FileMakers going away fear?
That's what I believe. I believe that people have been seeing, all of the big things that are this underlying stuff that will really launch FileMaker into a much more competitive space in terms of scale and competing with the other competitors out there. But it's been at the cost of some people's perception of, are they even working on FileMaker? Like these, what are the new little things? It's like the list over the past 5 or 7 years, I don't know if it's just me, has seemed like it gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. There's like, okay, we get a suite of 10 new functions. Now we've got 5 new functions. Now we've got 2 new functions in this completely brand new release. And I think that's been a frustration for some FileMaker developers.
Yeah, no, I get it. But we're working on some big rocks, right? We're really, there's some big ideas that need addressing in a big way, right? To be competitive, we've got to get technologies out there that give us the scale and the multi-tenancy and the offload all the security, all the benefits of cloud that we should be able to accrue. Those are big investments, and they're not easy to just magic wand onto a platform that was built for a local area network, right? And so the expansion of the platform and in adding what will be the next gen platform product, whatever we call that, and getting Connect into the equation is starting to really give us a power portfolio, right? We can build custom apps that are really badass. We can link them with anything in the world, and we can really start thinking about the process and workflows in our businesses, which is becoming a really hot kind of market, right? And we need to have all those things in our portfolio. There's the thing that came up in Srini's presentation this morning that he represented as the speedometer. Right? And I'll flatten that curve to a line for a second, right? And it was the idea of on a 0 to 100 kind of scale of complexity. In fact, let me deconstruct it even further. Do we all remember Dominique's bubble chart?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So we heard from Dominique, like classic, every year for many, many years, the bubble chart, which really went to on a scale where the y-axis was complexity and the x-axis was cost. There were, bubbles around, productivity apps that were very simple and low cost, enterprise apps that were very complex and very expensive. And in the middle was this gap that we solved for. That graph, if you think about it, was really linear. It wasn't really two-dimensional because the only data was in a 45-degree angle, right? There was nothing that would outlie that would make any sense whatsoever. So if we collapse it to a line and just equate complexity and cost, and then start thinking about what does our platform at Claris solve for, right? One of the unique differentiators that we have in the marketplace, because we've been around so long and we've been taking the feedback from this community and fleshing out this product, is that we cover a really broad range.
Yeah.
Right. We're not a super complex platform, right? You compare us to something like, I don't know, pick it, OutSystems, right? OutSystems is a low-code platform, but it's a low-code platform for pro developers in IT and enterprise. And you're not jumping into that if you are a citizen developer. I hate the term, but you're not. Or you look at something on the low end, right? Smartsheet, Airtable, whatever, easy to pick up, and has a really low entry point potentially, but you can only go so far and you run into a wall. You need something more. And we got a FileMaker platform that's fairly easy to get into. Yeah. Not as easy as some of the new competitors that are coming out, but fairly easy. But goes such a long distance, right? So you run out of runway with it, right?
It only has one major
a lot of
limitation.
developers.
Yeah, and that's how many users you can deploy to concurrently. Yeah. You can build anything you want up to 1,000 concurrent users, give or take. That's its only limitation.
I hear you. But let me finish the thought on this a little bit, right? The idea of adding in the JavaScript capabilities is to essentially remove the upper ceiling or put a backdoor there, I think as Todd likes to call it sometimes. Right? Give me the ability to extend. Yeah, let me get past the platform limits there so I can do whatever I want and inject that into the platform. The idea of the add-ons is also really critical, and marketplaces is the vehicle for it, is to make sure that whatever Todd does up here can extend down the line. Am I going backwards for you guys, or?
No, you're right.
Left?
You're good.
Okay, good. But it can go right down the line to somebody who's getting into the platform fresh. And then we have that quick app authoring thing. That's for that person that's trying to get started in the first place, right? They don't want to know the vagaries of FileMaker, building relationships and pixel perfect layout designs that don't flow or aren't responsive, right? Just let me open up a thing, add in a component, it automatically reflows, not unlike Bento. It's easy, it's easy as can be to get into the platform using that. And I can consume this crazy stuff that Todd built that's pretty powerful. And so we're pushing at the ends there a little bit because we really believe that that is a differentiator for us when you look at the marketplace. And then we've got to figure out how to enable our community in the middle of that to kind of build a market, to build an ecosystem that really everybody can thrive in. And, if we solve on the bottom end, we're going to get new people in. If we get new people in, they start using that quick app authoring and they run into a wall, they're right there in pro. They can graduate to the next thing. And they to take Serenity speedometer, they go from 20 to 40, right? And then you start learning how to, script in FileMaker, you're in the workspace, you get comfortable with it. Now you got it, right? The light bulb's off and you own this thing, and you're a FileMaker person for life. But you do want to add in some JavaScript stuff. So you start learning the code and you're moving up that Serenity's speedometer. And then you layer on top of that things like Connect. You can easily put it in the model. That's where we're trying to get. This is where no code, low code, pro code is all about, right? We can do all those things. We have the list of feature requests that everybody wants. All those little quality life improvements, just let me change my font size in the calc dialog. That's great. But we have some big rocks we got to fix to shore up our kind of where we are. And so I just want to throw that out there for you guys to think about a little bit, because I think it's kind of indicative of where we are. But we really have a huge focus on let's get more people into the platform. The notion that Brad was talking about, there's a gap, and we need citizen developers to be able to self-solve problems as well as to make pros more efficient. We can do both of those things, right? So it's going to be important for us to bring more people in, grow them up into the platform, give them a broader set of tools. And as the industry is moving to a place where it's not just data-based apps, but it's thinking in workflows, we want to have the tool set that's ready for that person that has that competency level and that comfort, right? So there's a lot happening right now, but I think it's really exciting. I think it's changing the nature of how we think of ourselves in many ways.
What's awesome is when we have you here on this video and we're able to capture that insight, it's my hope that that's what actually happens internally with Britta and the new marketing, that they sort of need to understand that they've got a dual marketing approach that they should take. You're marketing to your existing market, which are developers that love their tool, that want to know that that tool is safe and secure, not going to go anywhere. But you also have a second marketing where you're marketing to other people who don't know the tool. People who you want to invite in and come and say, hey, use the tool, but here's the easier transition that you make. So to me, it's not next gen, it's extendo gen. So you're extending what FileMaker does. Because you're not going to build it in the web. I mean, maybe you will in 10 years, but you're not going to do it right now. You're going to, if you want something really built, you're going to build it in FileMaker. But you're going to be able to take something that somebody else created, create this, I'm going to call it a little bit of a monster, sorry. But if you add all these different add-ons, some of them may cross over until that sort of worked out, but you get this mishmash, but then it can be enhanced within the actual development environment, which is awesome. I mean, so to me,
I just bought the domain ExtendoGen.
ExtendoGen, yeah, get that domain.
No way that was available.
As long as I'm in marketing, we will not use ExtendoGen. You can have
it. Not only is it available, it's only $1 for the first year.
Oh,
it's only $1. I'm shocked.
The dot gen.
ExtendoGen.com. It's mine.
The other thing, Matt, though, you said you're marketing to, the people for the no code, low code, and you're marketing to developers, but there's lots of businesses and organizations who they don't want anything to do with the low code, no code. They don't want to do anything there. So you're marketing to businesses or organizations that just want someone to build. They want to say what they want or what their problem is. They don't care how you do it. And so that's also on that side too, not just developers.
I think that's a really good point. And that's something that Brad always has talked about a couple times in this event. And I'm not sure that he talks about how, I don't remember the numbers he used, but how big the gap is between the demand for apps and the ability to fulfill them. Yeah. And there's weird language. It's all like, what is an app? Like, what does that mean? Is it a workflow? Is it an iPhone app? Is all these things that get in the way there in terms of language. But I think the point that's the really critical piece to that is that there is a huge need for, let's just call it intelligent automation, whatever, whether it's workflow apps, whether it's productivity apps, whether it's custom apps, or integrations. There's a huge need for that, and it is expanding at a rapid rate. And even as, I mean, I have a staff of developers, and I cannot fulfill the list of things that I want to automate, I want to deal with.
Yeah.
And so that's why I want low code and no code tools, because I have things that I can't get to because it's still too hard to do. And so it's a massive gap. It's huge. And that's why everybody's trying to pile into it. And I do think that Claris is uniquely positioned to get into that space. And we just got lucky in some ways that's, sort of as things circled around, we're back to this space where we really need a tool that can start out simple and go all the way. Like I said in my session, depending on the task or the time of day, I'm a pro, low, or no code developer. And that's what I want. I want to be able to reach into any one of those buckets depending on what I'm trying to do.
Yeah,
that's a really good perspective, because I mean, you'll develop a simple app for one customer, but then the next customer, they need to go all the way on that graph or all the way on the speedometer.
Right.
Yeah, you'll walk into like having to troubleshoot some super complex thing that you or somebody else built, and you have to, do that, versus starting with a brand new customer who you have high hopes for long term.
Right.
I don't think any of those.
Interesting.
Go ahead. Those owners on Bob's panel, none of them would care, right, which side they got on. They just want, I want to do this fun thing. One guy said, I want to, this is what my team wants, and you just go and figure out how to do it, whether it's low code, no code.
This is what low code development looks like to me.
Yeah. Yeah. It was
just
interesting how
already.
guys.
Sorry.
And what he really wanted to show was this.
That's
low
better.
code.
Oh, nice.
Low code. There you go.
There you go.
But
ratcheting down.
Code, please.
I mentioned it a moment ago, but I would dare say that within a single workflow, there's potentially a low code, and a pro code complexity level to it. So I don't know if you can look at. I'm not convinced yet. You can look at. I don't know how we define what an outcome is. How wide is that outcome definition? Because it would have to be pretty narrow for me to point to an outcome and say that's a low code outcome. This is a pro code outcome. And then the combination of all those outcomes together, where a workflow could start off as a very rote task, something very easy, achievable. And then it gets into this high level of complexity or conditions or whatever, just to get to that one outcome. So do we call that? I mean, I guess we call that one pro code then. I don't know. I don't know how that continuum
I've got
works.
it for you, Chris. As you were saying that, I thought somebody goes from no code to low code to pro code. And if that's the project, and let's say it stopped at any one of those points, as soon as they find out that they can do more, they want mo code. Give me some mo code.
That is domain worth.
Or as was pointed out in the forum today, they can call up the proof group and get code.
Code, yes.
Nice.
Wait, it's similar. I don't know if you guys have seen it in some of those. It's a little bit of fear of the low code or no code, because then the developers might lose their value. And that's the same kind of fear they get from machine learning and AI, that, automation is going to replace jobs, and that people are going to lose their jobs because of automation. But no, you just get to do something that's less tedious, repetitive. You're not going to make this,
or a wider reaching outcome.
Yeah, I think you're dead on, Heidi. And I saw a lot of commentary when that discussion was going on about low code equating it to lack of quality and things like that, and and there being a perception of that. But I think over the last couple of years, that perception in enterprise and by extension business at large is changing dramatically. I went to a Gartner conference a few years ago, and I saw a couple of our low code competitors there presenting. And there were a lot of IT guys, CIOs in the room, just arms crossed, really uncomfortable. And not actually, I say a lot, but I'm lying. There were a few thousand people at the conference. It was kind of like a FileMaker conference. But in the low code sessions, very few people. And they all were very, stone faced. And it came time for questions. It came Q&A time, and like nobody would say a thing. There was just a resistance to it. But now Gartner, low code itself is a Forrester term. Gartner's adopted it. It's very freely in the language that they're talking about, and that the press is talking about. So I think there's a comfort level with what it means.
It never comes up with my clients, though. Does it come with you guys as clients in the real world?
Really, I think we're still, yeah.
I don't think they even use the wording.
I want a low-code solution.
Yeah,
right? No.
No, they say I need software.
Why is it important?
Yeah.
Well, somebody's got to deliver.
Maybe we're concerned about if a prospect Googles the platform and then they feel like there's a dead end because the first message they see is about that easy on ramp or something, without the message about how it can go the distance.
Yeah, it's a good point, Matt. I think that may be some of the other ways in which we're having to adapt here. Is that we have all these new capabilities, machine learning, AI, JavaScript and the add-ons and all this stuff, and I think we're trying to translate that into outcomes right now, and that may be a little bit new for people, is to try to figure out, well, what does this mean for actual outcomes in a business? So I think it's gonna take a few cycles of people getting used to these technologies to understand how to translate them to business outcomes. And that's really what it is at the end of the day, is I need to get a specific business outcome done, whether I'm a business owner or I'm talking to a customer. That's what they're after at the end of the day. And we do have to figure out how to talk to them about that. And I think that's tricky. I mean, I think we hear language, like I've said for a number of years, like I think we heard it today, every company's a software company now. And that doesn't really resonate with the business owner necessarily. But the fact is that if you look around, the opportunities for automation or I like to also use the term augmentation as opposed to automation. The automation sometimes make people think that they're going to lose their jobs or they're not going to have people. I don't necessarily think that's it. I think you can make your people better by augmenting them with better tools. So the opportunities for that are just exploding. They're exploding, and so people are going to want that, and so we have to give them that in some way. And so the term low code, no code, I don't know that matters to them necessarily, but producing the outcome within a certain budget matters for sure.
Isn't that just confusing for this group, because we're professional developers and we're all in the pro code space? So we're like, wait, where do we fit? I think the message, if I'm not mistaken, is for people who might want to try to deal with some of these things themselves without assistance. In that case, that's all the low code stuff. Like, go solve problems yourself, get introduced to the platform, and then there will be needs for other outcomes that are more to achieve more outcomes that are more complex. Maybe it's confusing just for us, and I don't even know if it needs to be clear to us because we're all in the pro code space.
Maybe, but I would just say this: Todd, Chris's, Matt, Heidi, not you, look, Andy. Rewind 2 days ago. Rewind 2 days ago. And then tell me in the last 2 weeks how many times you use the phrase low code or pro code, because I think the number is 0 for me.
I think that's what I'm saying. That's what.
Do you?
That's what, outside of marketing discussions, 0.
Am I doing it wrong?
That's what I guess I'm saying. We're all pro code.
I don't even use that phrase. It just doesn't come into the.
No. I'm not even saying we identify as that. I'm saying because that's where we are. That's our perspective.
Right.
But people who are thinking about not hiring one of us to solve a problem themselves, those types of things those levels are probably more important to them in that decision-making process.
I haven't used them with any customer conversations, if that's what you're asking.
That's what I'm asking.
No,
it's certainly coming up. I mean, you see this even within the JavaScript community. There's a whole bunch of buzz around no code and low code solutions written on top of JavaScript. No code.
Well, that's because all the low code solutions are written on top of JavaScript. I mean that's really what they are.
Yeah, but you'll see developers in all languages worried about no code and low code. It's definitely something that you hear that term, but I think it's a technical term. I don't think it's one that is coming up in business discussions, which maybe.
Yeah. So I guess what I'm saying is it would be nice if there was emphasis put on a term that actually would be usful in business discussions.
Outcomes.
Sure.
Yeah, but
outcomes. I think we still anchor on workplace innovation, right? I think there was a question that came up in the thread today about is low code the category? It's not. It's an attribute of our platform and our category, and it is a hot buzzword right now in terms of its momentum in our industry. But we're about workplace innovation, and if I listen to those 4 business owners today, or I listen to Eric Astor from Furnace, the way he thinks about technology to me is so enlightening. Every time I hear him speak, I hear something new, right? I mean, he's a small manufacturing company. They use lean management principles, and I meet him, and he comes up with something like, "We need to tell the machines to do what we do, so we can do what the machines can't do." Right? It's just the way he thinks, and I'm like, it's gold. It's so spot on. And so he's not a coder, but he gets that technology gives him an advantage. And like having been there and seen how he attaches little IoT devices to those 50-year-old, 40-year-old machines, whatever it was, and started learning from them, it's really hot, man. So I think when you get to just actual innovation, you get to business entrepreneurship concepts, those play well for us, right? We support it well.
True.
I do think the one place it does come up though is in larger organizations that are Microsoft shops, where they have, I think it's called Automate now. We have a client that has Automate and FileMaker. And so there's people starting to do things on Automate. So in that way, it would be like if FileMaker, as NG comes, they would have something there and they might say, oh, I like this better. So I think Microsoft shops do have something they see, as low code that they can make what they want.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, they are selling that. And they just combined it. It used to be where they have Power Apps and Flow Apps, and they've now call it the Automate platform or something.
Yeah, it's changed names. Yeah. So, and when you have a large organization, you have many different, you can have 20 departments doing FileMaker and 20 departments doing Automate, and they jostle, right?
Yeah. Well, I would. Yeah. I got to go walk the dogs in a few minutes. I think Matt.
Yeah, I was going to say we're on an hour 12.
But one thing I would say, Andy,
that's after the restart.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
One thing I would say, I think that a couple things, maybe my final thoughts. The pandemic that we're all in and dealing with is an accelerator, and it's going to turn up the heat on all of these. Any of these trends that were happening before are happening at a rapid rate. What used to take 10 years is now going to take 2 or 3 years. And so we're going to see a lot of change coming up, and it's very exciting. And I'm super thrilled to see what Claris is doing in this space. And I think that what we're doing right now is something that I think Claris could benefit from doing more of. Now that everybody's virtual, we've all gotten good practice at doing this. Andy, you're a great spokesman for this platform, and love to see more of you out there and more of other people at the Claris, from Claris, who really, really get this stuff and can communicate it, showing up in forums just like this. I mean, we'd love to have you on our podcast. I know the Matts would, and there's other podcasts. We'd love to get you guys out there talking about this stuff. I think it would really help, not only the developers who've been around for a while, but for new folks coming in. So I hope we can.
I need to share my origin story, right? We got
the origin stories have been super popular, by the way. People love them, and we've got. I don't know how many. I think it'll be fun. 100 of them or something.
It's probably gonna lead me to talk about Chris Moyer, who's been hiding from us this whole meeting. But that'll be awesome. Since he got me my start, he taught me everything I know.
Let's just get out there and and these kinds of ad hoc things. Frankly, to me, and I don't know if I can't speak for everybody, but to me, these kinds of things carry way more value than an uber polished, corporate kind of thing. I think everybody can tell the difference. It's not that there's not a place for that stuff, because there is, but this kind of stuff just has a tremendous impact when we can connect, really connect with you, even if it's just virtually. I think everybody feels.
Well, what a great audience we've had too on the chat. I see Clay Mackles here. I'm watching you too, Clay.
Clay's
there's a lot of. Yeah, and Dave from Australia. I appreciate you being here, Dave, and everybody. It's been great. Yeah. So thank you, and Matt,
Jesse,
Matt Petrosky. Thanks for the invite, man.
Yeah, no problem. Really appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, this was a perfect opportunity to get all you brilliant people together, and I'm really, really glad to have you on.
Yeah.
So wait, there were other people watching?
Yeah.
I
think there's
just us, small little group.
Just a few of us.
A lot of them are dog lovers.
There's 63 people still watching. Actually,
63 people still watching
all this time.
Well, that's great, guys. Listen, thanks again for everybody's efforts in making this happen, and rather see you all in person, but this will
you all in San Diego for sure. Well, I won't, but the rest of you will.
Signing off.
You will be there.
I can't wait for San Diego.
Me too. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks, everyone.
All right. See you guys later.